So one of the hardest things for me when I first started playing Counter-Strike was getting used to the weapon mechanics. I felt like it was really different from Valorant, and I felt like I really struggled to hit my shots and really get used to the movement and everything that comes along with Counter-Strike. But the good thing is there are these maps in the workshop called YPRAC maps. This one that I'm in right now is basically like an in-game version of Aim Lab. When I first started, it helped me really get used to the shooting mechanics of Counter-Strike. I feel like compared to Valorant, it seemed a lot different to me, and I really needed to have this kind of practice to really get used to it. One of the biggest downfalls to using something like AimLab compared to this is AimLab is a third-party program, so you're not actually playing the game. So for me, the things that really helped me improve at a quicker rate was doing the hardest version of the precision tasks. So what I like to do when I first load up this mode is stand still and just move my crosshair directly onto the ball in a pretty slow way. I feel like this helps me get warmed up right away and really like calibrate my aim for the day. Once I've done that for a while, I'll move into actually incorporating movement and counter-strafing into it, because this is obviously one of the most important parts of the game, and getting used to this is really important. Once you've played it for a little bit and get warmed up, you can start like moving a little bit faster and doing like aim correction, where you do a fast flick and then correct to the aim. It's like a 2-flick system. You go like flick, move. You're not always going to be able to flick directly onto the head, so being able to do these micro adjustments are arguably more important than just raw aim in the first place. And you can do this with different guns too. I typically like to do the Deagle or like other pistols like the Glock or the USP. These maps are honestly just a great way to get used to all the guns in the game, and because they do all feel pretty different, being able to master each one is really nice, because then you're not in game with a gun that you're like, oh, I'm useless with this, I've never used it before. Another thing that I like to do right when I get in is start with tracking, because tracking I feel like is one of the harder parts of the game for me, and if I just start with this, I feel like my flicking precision shots are a lot easier because my mouse arm is a lot more warmed up. A common theme is doing the much more difficult tasks, because if you're struggling in the game and you're struggling to like hit your headshots and play the maps, your brain has to work a lot harder, and if you're forcing your brain to work harder, you're gonna improve faster, because you're not just like doing something easy. If you're just like sitting here doing this all day, like hitting grid shot, like what are you actually... Characters aren't this big, you're not actually gonna really improve. I use this more for just like counter strafing. But yeah, so back to tracking, I will go to line switch on insane, and obviously I'm not gonna be very good at it because it's difficult, but you just are really forcing yourself to think and make your mouse arm move in a way that you're not typically used to. And forcing yourself to do something like this, you're going to see the most improvement because you're forcing yourself to do something harder. I'll do the same thing where I start with standing still, and then once I feel like I'm warmed up with the standing still stuff, I start moving. Obviously this is more difficult, but this is going to be more accurate to what you're going to have to be doing in the game. Getting used to that is going to be a lot more helpful than just like standing still, because if you're used to just standing still and you're only good at doing stuff standing still, you're going to end up standing still in game and you're just going to get absolutely ruined. Doing stuff like this is actually very, very helpful. I don't see a lot of people giving this recommendation on YouTube, but I feel like it's been one of the most important things for me to really improve. Aside from line switch, I like to do this box track one. And this one honestly is just not fun. I can really feel it destroying my arm, and like I really struggle with it, so I feel like doing it is gonna show the best improvement. This one I feel like I typically stand still during because it's so difficult in the first place, but being able to move on to incorporating in the movement I feel like will help a lot. I just haven't really hit that point yet. Another one of the really big differences between Counter-Strike and Valorant is the fact that every gun has a set recoil pattern in this game, so getting used to your bursts and spraying down people is going to be really helpful in the end. A YouTuber that I watch for Valorant, his name's Wahujin, he talks about this thing called gunfight hygiene, and I feel like it's It's where you stop, do 2-tap move, and it's basically about just like not overspraying your gun. And that does apply to Counter-Strike, but I feel like it's good to be able to like take your shot slowly and not overspray, but you do have the option to control your spray. So like in Valorant, you can only really get like 5 Vandal shots before it just starts flying all over the place. And in this game, you can literally track the entire spray and get it consistently if you put that much time and effort into it. And every gun in the game has a predictable spray pattern. You're able to do these consistent sprays and these consistent spray transfers. That's going to help you a lot. A big thing that I like about these maps is I feel like I'm able to understand when the gun is going to get out of control for me. After a few bullets, I like know, okay, I'm kind of guessing at this point. You'll learn how to pull down and everything like that, but being able to like, after say like that many shots, I feel like I start losing control of it. So that is a good indicator for me to like get up, reposition, and restart my spray. So we are here in another YPRAC map. This one is going to be about spray control. There's another popular recoil map called Recoil Master, and I actually prefer this one to it because it has this thing, this time scale, where you're able to decrease the speed of your bullets. So you're able to master the pattern and slowly increase your speed until you're at the actual speed of the gun. Once you feel like you're really getting it down, you can take away the pattern. And I feel like personally you need to take away the pattern, because for me, when I just do it with the pattern, I completely forget how to do it when the pattern's gone. Having it gone helps for when you're actually using it in game. Another big thing that helped me a lot was understanding that pistols actually have a relatively controllable pattern too. I definitely recommend just going in and doing the slower version and speeding it up after that. And it's really nice because you're able to use it with every single gun in the game. So I would recommend starting with like the AK, the M4, or the M4 A1S if you're using that one instead. It's also good to practice things like the cheaper SMGs like the MAC-10 and the MP9, because those are going to be what you're going to be using during eco rounds. So getting used to these is going to be super helpful. Alright, so now we are in the Mirage YPRAC map. I use these a lot to do the pre-fire practice because I played Raze in Valorant, so I'm used to being an entry fragger, and that's kind of the role that I've been taking up in CS. The pre-fire practice is actually really helpful because it shows you all of the possible places that enemies could be. It gets you used to clearing angles and knowing how not to overpeak and how to get your crosshair placement down. So the great thing about these maps is that they have a lot of different entry paths. There's like a B site apps push, there's a mid push, there's an A ramp push, an A palace push, so you can really get used to everything on the map before you really start getting into the competitive games. When you have help on, it shows the boxes of where the characters are. So when you don't know and you haven't really played it much, it's good to have the help on, but I will play it with help right away, and then I'll move it. You just hit Y and then type help, and it takes it away. So this helps you get used to it in game, because obviously there aren't going to be boxes on the characters, and it's really useful because it helps transition your practice into your gameplay immediately. Another really helpful thing about this map is it lets you use your util, so I use it to practice my flashbangs and swinging off my flashbangs. So I really struggled with using my utility off the rip when I first started playing this game, so I feel like this has definitely helped me do stuff that I'm not necessarily used to doing. Another big difference between Counter-Strike and Valorant is that you're able to actually pick the maps that you want to play. So one thing that I would recommend is probably sticking to a couple maps and really learning them inside and out, learning the util lineups, learning how to entry, everything like that, and then start expanding to different maps. These three you really can't go wrong with. These are kind of like the classic maps, so learning them, there's a lot of great info online to learn more about them. You also can pick between a short or a long match. When I first started, I typically started playing with short matches because I feel like it's easier to get used to. It's less intimidating because you're not just going into committing to like an hour-long game every single time. You could have bad teammates, you could have shitty people in your lobby, you could have smurfs, and if you run into stuff like that, playing a short match, at least it's over quickly.